It is 2 a.m. You should be asleep. You know you should be asleep. Your body is exhausted, and your mind will not stop. It is replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. It is constructing scenarios that have not happened and probably never will. It is asking questions that have no answers at 2 a.m. or at any other time. And you lie there, exhausted, frustrated, wondering why you cannot simply turn it off. Here is what nobody tells you. You cannot turn it off because you have been trying to solve the wrong problem. Overthinking is not a malfunction. It is not a weakness. It is not something broken inside you that needs to be fixed. It is a feature of a highly active mind. Running a program it was never designed to run this hard, in conditions it was never built for. And philosophy, combined with what we now know about the brain, has a clearer answer to why it happens and what to actually do about it than anything the self-help industry has ever produced. Let us start at the beginning. What is overthinking actually doing? Not what it feels like it is doing, what it is actually doing. The ancient Stoics had a word for the faculty that produces thought, the hegemonikon, the ruling faculty, the part of you that interprets everything that happens to you and decides what it means. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." But here is what that means in practice. Your mind does not experience reality directly. It experiences its interpretation of reality. The thing that happened, and the story your mind tells about the thing that happened, are two completely different things. Overthinking is what happens when the storytelling machine gets stuck in a loop. It keeps generating new versions of the same story, new angles, new outcomes, new worst cases, because it is looking for a version it can resolve. A version that feels safe, certain, finished. And in most cases, that version does not exist. Because the thing you are overthinking is almost always something uncertain, something unresolved, something that cannot be thought into safety, no matter how many times your mind tries. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years ago. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things. The event is not the problem. The interpretation is." And the overthinking mind is an interpretation machine, running at full speed, on a problem it cannot solve by interpreting harder. Now, let us bring in psychology. Because the Stoics identified the pattern, but neuroscience tells us why it is so hard to stop. The human brain has what psychologists call a default mode network. It is the part of your brain that activates when you are not focused on a specific task. When you are daydreaming, resting, not actively doing anything. And what does the default mode network do? It thinks about you. It replays past events. It simulates future scenarios. It processes social interactions, analyzing what people meant, what you should have said, what might happen next. For most of human history, this was useful. Your brain needed to anticipate threats, plan for winters, navigate complex social hierarchies where one wrong move could get you exiled from the group. Overthinking kept you alive. The problem is that the modern world has given your default mode network an almost infinite supply of material to work with, and almost no periods of genuine rest to process it. Notifications, news, social media, emails, the constant awareness of being observed, evaluated, compared. Your brain was built to handle a village. You are asking it to handle the entire world. And it is doing exactly what it was designed to do, trying to process all of it at a scale it was never built for. This is not a character flaw. It is a mismatch between ancient hardware and modern software. Carl Jung adds another layer that nobody in the overthinking conversation ever talks about. He believed that a significant portion of what the mind churns on, especially at night, especially in the unguarded moments, is not really about the surface problem it appears to be about. The conversation you keep replaying, the decision you cannot stop second-guessing, the fear you cannot name but cannot shake. Jung believed these are often the conscious mind's attempt to process something deeper, something from the unconscious that is trying to surface. An unresolved emotion, a suppressed truth, a part of yourself you have been avoiding. He wrote, until you make the unconscious conscious. It will direct your life and you will call it fate. You will also call it overthinking. Because the mind that cannot stop turning something over is often a mind that is trying to bring something underground into the light. And the more you try to suppress it, the louder it gets. This is why distraction does not work. Why watching another episode, scrolling for another hour, staying busy enough that you never have to sit with it, always ends the same way. The moment the distraction stops, the thought is still there, waiting, patient, louder than before. So what actually works? Here is where philosophy stops diagnosing and starts prescribing. The first and most important thing is the Stoic distinction between what is in your control and what is not. Most overthinking is about things outside your control. What someone thinks of you. What might happen in a future that has not arrived. Whether a decision you already made was the right one. Epictetus drew a hard line. Some things are up to us. Some things are not. And the practice, the daily, unglamorous, never-finished practice, is learning to feel the difference. Not just know it intellectually. Feel it. When the thought arrives, ask one question. Is there an action I can take right now that would change this? If yes, take the action. Stop thinking and start doing. If no, that is your signal. The thought is asking you to solve something unsolvable, and no amount of thinking will change that. The second thing, and this comes directly from Jung, is to stop running from the thought and start listening to it. Not feeding it. Listening. Ask, what is this thought actually about? Not the surface version. What is underneath it? The conversation you keep replaying. Is it really about what was said? Or is it about a fear of not being valued, of not being seen, of being abandoned? The decision you cannot stop second-guessing. Is it really about the decision? Or is it about a deeper terror of being wrong, of being responsible for your own life? When you find the real question, the surface thought often loses its power, because what the mind was actually looking for was not an answer. It was acknowledgement. The third thing is the one most people resist the most: stillness. Not meditation in the formal sense, though that works too. Just deliberate, regular, protected periods of doing nothing. No phone, no input, no distraction. Just you and whatever comes up. Marcus Aurelius built this into his life. Every morning, before the empire demanded everything, he sat with his own mind, wrote to himself, examined what was moving in him. Not to solve everything, to see it. The mind that is never given space to process is a mind that processes at 2 a.m. instead. Give it space during the day, and it starts to need less space at night. Blaise Pascal, the 17th century French philosopher, wrote something that has aged with devastating accuracy. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. He wrote that in 1654. Before smartphones, before social media, before the notification economy had engineered every moment of your attention into a product. He was already right then. He is more right now than ever. So let us bring this together. You cannot stop overthinking because your mind is doing exactly what it was built to do. In a world that gives it far too much material and far too little rest. You cannot stop it by thinking harder about it. You cannot stop it by distracting yourself from it. You cannot stop it by judging yourself for having it. What you can do is learn to work with it instead of against it. Ask whether the thing you are thinking about is in your control. If not, name that clearly and release the thought. Not because it is easy, but because continuing to hold it costs you everything and changes nothing. Ask what the thought is really about. Go one level deeper than the surface. Find the real question underneath and give it the acknowledgement it is asking for. And give your mind space. Real space. Not the pseudo-rest of scrolling or watching. The actual quiet of sitting with yourself, even for 10 minutes, every single day. Epictetus said, "Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life." Tranquility is not the absence of thought. It is the presence of a mind that is no longer at war with itself. That is what the Stoics were pointing at. That is what Jung was building toward. That is what Pascal saw so clearly from a room in 17th century France. And it is available to you, not by thinking more, by thinking differently. This is Philochemy. We will see you in the next one.